Hey everybody, good afternoon, evening, whatever. Yes, my leg is still messed up. I'm still in recovery. I'm still in the bed. I'm gonna get back to the original me soon. But for right now, I still want to tell you guys this stuff because it is important, right? So today I'm going to be telling y'all about reinforcers and punishers. So it's reinforcement. You're going to hear reinforcement all the time. All the time in ABA autism land. You're going to always hear reinforcers. Give me a reinforcer. What's this reinforcement? So reinforcements are anything that increases the behavior. Meaning simply a toy is not a reinforcer, but a toy that will increase the behavior of clapping hands is a reinforcer because it increases the behavior. It's not a reinforcer just because it's something fun. It has to be used in a manner of reinforcing. You have to use it to increase the behavior. Let's see. Social reinforcements are praise, clapping your hands, saying good job, giving them a back rub, as a reward. It's a reward. A reinforcement is a reward because when you reward the child or the person, when you reward them, then you know that it's going to increase the behavior, right? Hey, I'm just on here trying to recruit my RBTs, and I'm talking about reinforcements and punishments, okay? So you got when it crumbles down to the behavioral part of it all and the analyst part of it all and trying to change behavior, reinforcers can be positive and negative. Okay, so most of the time we try not to make the kid not do anything. We try to make them do the things. So let's say a kid doesn't know how to raise their hand, so they're just blurting out in class. Of course, you want them to stop blurting out in class, but the goal is usually to reinforce them enough for them to continue to raise their hand. We'll get on punishers in a second. So negative reinforcements and positive reinforcements for raising your hand. Okay, so Chad raises his hand. Good job, Chad. Wow, Chad. Give Chad a star. Give Chad a sticker. And if Chad gets 5 stickers, then Chad gets to go outside to play. These are reinforcers. Chad gets the tablet. Chad gets to go play with Bill. Chad gets to lay his head down. These are reinforcers. You see how laying his head down is not it's not a thing. It's something that he gets to do. It's a reinforcement. Right? You're reinforcing by rewarding. So that's a reinforcement. So a negative reinforcement is he doesn't have to pay attention in class anymore. So you're taking away class as a reward. So that's a negative reinforcement because you're taking something away as a reward for doing something that you want to see increase. Okay, so a positive reinforcer is obviously the toys and the giving because you're adding something to increase the behavior. Boom, reinforcements, they're easy. You're always going to hear it in this field. Let's move on to punishment because punishments are hard. I'm trying to get this on out the way. No more 30 minutes, okay? Punishments are difficult because they say you're not supposed to punish them. You're not supposed to, whoop them. That messes up their integrity. You're not supposed to fuss at them. Those are things that are against the code of ethics that I talked about weeks ago, right? And so when you bring up punishment in the behavior analysis part of it all, or the behavior therapist of it all, which is what I want you guys to become, this is when you have to be technical because there are also positive and negative punishments. Punishment is anything that decreases the behavior. Just like reinforcers are rewards that increase the behavior, punishers are not punishers unless they are aimed to decrease the behavior. Yes, whoopings are punishment. That's positive punishment because you're giving them something to make them stop the behavior or decrease the behavior. Negative punishments are usually the thing because you're not gonna give them what they want because you want to decrease that behavior. So let's say Chad is crying. Okay? Yes, you're gonna punish Chad because technically and literally you're going to not give him the juice because you want him to stop crying for the juice. But that's where your reinforcers come in, because you don't only punish them. In this field, you're always going to reinforce them for the good as well as punishing them for the bad. When I say punish, I know it sounds so harsh, but that is the technical term. It's a punishment, a punisher, right? Taking away the tablet, negative punishment. Giving a weapon, positive punishment. Not responding, that is a negative punishment because you're not giving them anything. You're not giving them that because you want the punishment. You want the behavior to decrease. Okay, so that's punishment. So whenever you think about punishing a kid, you always have to think about reinforcing something else as well. So let's say we go back to Chad raising his hand. Chad didn't raise his hand. He blurted out the answer. So we're not even going to respond to Chad. Or you could say, Chad, you got detention. That's a positive reinforcer. A positive punishment. Oops, excuse me. Chad got detention, right? Okay, so when Chad finally raises his hand, because we are giving him the punishment for not raising his hand, we always have to give the reinforcer for raising his hand. And another thing about reinforcers, they have to be immediate as you can make it, obviously. Okay? So going back to punishments. Restraint is not a punishment, right? Restraint is restraint. Restraint, according to the code of ethics, is okay, as long as it does not harm the child or put their integrity and safety and security and confidentiality at bay. As long as that kid is not being humiliated, you are okay to restrain them. Legally, code of ethically, you are able to restrain the child. You do not have to sit there and let a child hit you. But when you begin, whatever you decide to do after you restrain has to be a punisher, because you do not want to increase that behavior. So if that child is used to every time he hits his mom starts yelling at him, fussing at him, and he keeps yelling, he keeps hitting mom, that's a reinforcer. Okay, and so that's when you get into extinction. Everybody loves extinction because it's like, okay, we're going to nip this up in the bud and we're just not going to respond. Extinction is not just not responding, though. Extinction is not giving the usual reinforcer. Like I said, if Billy Bob is hitting his mom and every time he hits his mom fusses at him and he keeps hitting mom, then fussing at him is the reinforcer. You can decide to give him a different response, but you just absolutely cannot fuss at him anymore, because that is what kept him doing it. So now when Billy Bob hits mom, we would tell mom, you wouldn't tell mom, I would tell mom, and you would demonstrate to mom that when he hits, we say nothing. We say nothing. We restrain, we redirect with our hands, and we move on. The punisher is a negative punisher. It's extinction because you're not responding. But there is a punisher in there. The punisher is a negative punisher because you're taking away the yelling. Sometimes you're not supposed to sit there and go through all that and react. Sometimes you have to extinct the behavior. Sometimes you have to just not give them anything. And that's a negative punisher in itself because it decreases the behavior. Okay, and then when you do that, there are going to be times where your sister fusses when he does it, or your husband fusses when he does it. But if everyone gets on the same page, the behavior will stop. He will stop hitting his mom. If everyone is on the same page, there will be a time, he might stop for a second and then he'll do it again. He might stop for an entire week and then he might do it again. We call that spontaneous recovery. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. I remember if I hit my mom, she's going to fuss at me. Guess what, though? When he does it a week later, you have to remember, this is where the skill of it all comes in. Because guess what? For mom, if I'm talking to mom who gets hit now, mom, that's your boundary. That's your boundary. And it's like, how are you going to fix that? How are you going to set your boundary? It's your child. You can't leave him, you know? So guess what? You're not going to respond. And you have to hold that. So even if he does it a month later, you don't respond. And when he sees that this is not how he's going to get your attention, he will stop doing it. And if you want to give him something that you can reinforce instead, you can tell him to gently tap you. You could tell him to say, Mom, if he wants your attention. Can I have a hug if he wants your attention? And there's a time for you to reinforce. I know people want to do gentle parenting. You do not have to touch your child, but you have to set your boundaries with your child, just like your child is your partner, just like your child is your parent. Your child is a human being. You have to set that boundary with them with these reinforcers and punishers. So let's say you don't want him to hit you, but you want him to tap you. Every single time he taps you or says Mom or does what you want him to do, you have to say, oh, thank you so much for tapping me. Thank you so much. That's praise. You can give him a cookie if you want. I don't do the cookies. I don't believe in food as reinforcers, especially if they're hungry. But we'll go on to that on another time when we talk about schedule and stuff like that. But for right now, I'm talking about reinforcers and punishers. And I just want you guys to understand the difference between punishment and punishing, right? Punishing is, you know, we are all around here and we give you punishment. Hey, go to your room, those are punishers also, but you're punishing them. But in this field, you're going to have punishers, punishments, okay? And I know that was so simple and so straightforward, but this is just in case. And I hope there's a mom somewhere in here that realizes how they can stop their Billy Bob from hitting them using a punisher and restraint, because you deserve to restrain. You deserve to be able to give them a punisher that is acceptable for you, acceptable for that child. Everything's gonna be okay. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video, and we're going to be talking about schedules, because the schedules are what make the reinforcers more important. Talking about schedules and motivations. So I hope this one was short enough for y'all, and I'll see y'all next time.